All right, guys, good morning. Thank you everybody for coming in today. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Morales. I am a licensed agent here in Pennsylvania. Um, I brought you guys in here today to educate you in the home buying process. I guess, that's what everybody's here for, right? Today I am joined with a colleague of mine. This is Eric over here. He is with CMG Mortgage Company. He is the numbers guy. He's the one that's going to be talking to you about the process of the beginning, the pre-approval, and what steps you guys need to take as far as that. Me, I'm the realtor, so I'm the one that's going to guide you through everything. You talk to me first, I introduce you to the mortgage guy, and they will take care of the rest, and then come back to me. But I will be with you through the whole process. Today, my mission is to educate you guys. Everybody's questioning, sometimes people question like, I don't have enough credit, I don't have enough money sitting. It's a lot of questions that people have. We'll be here to educate you and answer those questions. My mission is by the time you guys leave out of here, all those questions that you have should be answered. And if not, all my information is there. You call me over, we can go one-on-one, educate you a little bit more. With that being said, again, thank you for coming in. I'm gonna let Eric take over from here, start the process, and then I'll be back and talk to you guys for a little bit more. Eric?
All right. Thank you, guys. Let me go ahead and let me connect here so I can show you my slides.
Okay.
Okay. Guys, first of all, I want you guys to give yourselves a round of applause for being here on a Saturday morning. Right? It says a lot that you guys got up after a Friday night and you're here learning, which means that each one of you guys have it as a goal. And we're going to help guide you to get there. And I want to also give a round of applause for Ed and his family for putting this together. Ed was telling me he grew up right down the block, and he wants to make sure that he continues to educate his community, which is something that I really enjoy doing. I grew up in this business. My father's been in it for about 30 years. I've been doing it myself for about 9 years. And we focus on really helping first-time home buyers, right? We walk through the process, and this is why this is so important. We don't come from a community where we have people handing us down properties that are paid off, right? Like we're a lot of times one of the first people in our generation to buy a home, and it's so important to get educated, right? Let's wait for this to detect. I want this to be, we're going to go through it pretty quickly, right? But don't feel like, I want you guys to feel when you leave here today a little bit more comfortable, and it doesn't end here. You guys are going to follow me on social media. If you're on social media, you guys are going to text me so we can schedule a one-on-one conversation. It doesn't stop, right? The whole point is that you guys feel comfortable with who's guiding you throughout this process. Throughout this conversation, I want you guys to feel comfortable, ask questions. If I'm going to get to it in a minute or two, I'll be like, we'll get there, right? But I'll make sure that you guys get your questions answered. And with your specific situation, if you want to get pre-qualified, if you want to talk about your situation, right, I'm going to give you, you're going to have multiple times to get my information. You can text me right on the spot. I'll send you a calendar. We can schedule an invite. We can schedule a call so we can talk about your specific situation. We're going to talk about some generalities today. But listen, all these consultations are free. I spend my entire day talking to as many people as I can. Whether you're ready to buy a house now or in a year from now, our goal is to help guide you along the way. Okay? You know what? I did it a couple times. What I did is I just reconnected, and it should come in a minute. If not, we'll go through. There you go. I just took a pump back. All right. You know what? Well, I'll keep on going. So, guys, a little bit about myself and while that comes up. So, I mentioned that I've been doing this for about 9 years. I started doing this by flipping homes, investing passively, and doing it on my own. And I love this so much that I said I want to leave corporate America and do what my father has done, because I've seen what he's been able to do to help generations right? Really build wealth, because homeownership is one of those first steps to building that generational wealth, right? The average homeowner is 40 times wealthier than the average renter because houses appreciate. You guys see these houses only going up in price, they don't go down. So it's more expensive if you wait to buy, but if you buy now, you're gonna be the beneficiary of that appreciation, all right? So we want to help all kinds of home buyers, investors navigate all types of financing from the traditional mortgages. We'll talk about FHA conventional. We're going to talk about grants today, right? From commercial to investments, we do it all, right? My job is to figure out what your situation is and figure out what the right loan product is for you, right? Um, so, how many of you guys today, right? Do you guys feel a little bit concerned or stressed out or intimidated, anxious, uncertain about buying a house? Are you guys listening to the news? Is it a good time to buy a house? Is it a bad time to buy a house? These rates are quote unquote high, right? There's a lot of information out there that makes you feel, is buying a house the right move for me today? And that's perfectly fine. The whole point of what we're doing today is we want you to feel less of this by the time you leave. And as we continue to educate and build a relationship, I want you guys to feel comfortable taking that first step forward if it's right for you. So, I want this to be a little interactive. What credit score do you think we need in order to buy a house right now? What credit score? Anybody? 600? 580 and up? You're the winner. Do we have a prize for him? Mimosas on the house. 580. Now, that's for an FHA loan. That's for a federally insured loan. You can go as low as a 580. There's different programs that require a higher credit risk, a higher credit score, so you can mitigate the risk. We'll talk about the grants in a minute, and grants do require a little higher, right? But great answer. How about down payment? How much of a down payment in a percentage of a home do you need? 20%. 3.5. Can you want to my time? I did this. So he's a winner for 3.5% down for an FHA loan. However, there's a misconception that you need 20% down. That's not true, right? If you're a veteran, thank you for your service. You can buy with 0% down program. If you're buying in rural areas away from the city and it's in a USDA zone, as long as the house qualifies for it, you can buy in the USDA area with 0% down, right? If you're buying a conventional single-family house, you can purchase it with 3% down. And there's a grant program where you can actually purchase with 0% down, and we've been talking about that in a little bit. So super important for you guys to know that, especially, listen, it's expensive out there. You see the price of gas, price of food, groceries, right? It's getting more and more difficult to save $1 these days. So knowing these grant programs and knowing these things is super important, right? Because if you wait to have 10% or 20% down on the property, you may never buy a house. Buy a house with these programs, these low down payment programs, so you can be the beneficiary of that appreciation and build that generational wealth that we talked about earlier, right? All right, so there's 7 steps of home ownership. The first step is really scheduling a mortgage planning session. A lot of you guys, the first step, you're going to call Ed. Ed's going to be like, all right, you got to get your finances in order. Call Eric, right? And then we're going to go ahead and do a mortgage planning session. And in a few short minutes, I ask you about your credit, your income, your assets, and I can tell you what I think you qualify for and what the next step would be, right? Which is really getting pre-approved. So what's a pre-approval? I can pre-qualify you over the phone, or right after this conference, right, the seminar, we can talk and I can tell you what I think you can afford. But that's not a pre-approval. A pre-approval, I have to verify that. I have to look at tax returns, W-2s, right, your assets. Do you have a 401k, a pension that you can use to purchase a property? What kind of income do you have? Are you self-employed? Are you W-2, right? Do you get child support, alimony, right? These are all things that we have to look at. So that way, when I verify it, I can now give you and Ed a pre-approval letter, which is now going to help you buy a house. One, so you can understand the math and understand what your mortgage payment is going to be. Because we don't want you to look for properties that, even though on paper you can afford, you got to be comfortable with that payment, right? So we want to make sure we have the right budget for you. And the sellers are going to take your offer seriously when now your offer is going to be accompanied by a pre-approval letter with my name on it, or when CMG name on it, which is the third largest retail lender in the country. We're going to know that it's legit. We're going to take the offer seriously. Then you're going to find your home, and after this, right, Ed's going to talk about what his role is, and that's the sexy part of of looking for a house. Mine is not. It's numbers. You're actually going to go out there into the marketplace, go look at homes, so you can find your home, right? And that may take the longest time because getting I can pre-approve you in the same day in many cases, right? And then once you're under contract, it takes you about 30 days to close on your own, but it might take you weeks to find the house, depending on the market, depending on who you work with. That's why working with somebody like you that understands the market and has a great support team around him, they're going to make sure that your offer gets accepted. Your offer is written in a way where it's stronger than the rest, right? You're finding your home, you're going to submit your offer, and that's something that Ed's going to talk about. You're going to go under contract. Once both parties sign the contract, you're officially under contract, and that's when the loan process starts. We have to now, everything that I looked at, an underwriter is going to double check the work, we're going to look at the income, we're going to order references and reporting, right? We have to order appraisals and titles, and we're going to talk about some of these things as well, right? But that takes about 30 days, right? There's a lot of people involved in this transaction. And our job is to help you be comfortable, right? Because we're going to guide you, and Ed is like the point guard of the transaction, right? He's gonna say, hey, this is the title company that I work with that is good. Hey, this is the inspector, right? And we have an inspector who's going to be talking to you later, right? So we're going to guide you to connect you with the right people, the right team. And then we have closing day. We're waiting for that key to close so you can actually get the keys to your house and start the moving process. So now, I want to talk a little bit about the grant, okay? And we'll talk about some other loan programs. But here in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, there's different grants that can help you if cash is the issue to buy a house. So let's just do some numbers. Like what's around here, what's the average price point of a single family home, give or take?
It would take 150, 160, 180.
Right. So let's use 200,000 just for the sake of simple math. If you're buying a $200,000 property with an FHA loan, 3.5% of that is $7,000. Okay, that's what you need as a down payment to buy that $200,000 house. If it's a $300,000 house, now you need $10,500. Okay, so that's a down payment. But buying a house is not just a down payment. There's something called closing costs involved, right? You're gonna pick as an inspector that's gonna talk a little later. That's gonna protect you. You got to make sure that the house that you buy is not gonna fall apart next year, right? You got to make sure you get an appraisal. Is this house really worth the $200,000 that you made an offer on? And is it livable? Is it going to pass FHA regulations, right? And that's there to protect you. You're going to get a title company. Is Paul talking about title later?
Yeah.
Later? Yeah. Right? That protects you. Is there judgments against the property and against the seller, against the property? Is there other liens, right? So there's a lot. There's homeowners insurance, just like car insurance. You need your house to get insured. So there's all these different costs, right? And typically you're looking at 2 to 4%. Like you might be paying $14,000 in closing costs for a $200,000 house, right? So in all, let's say you're going to need $20,000, right, to buy this $200,000 property. Where are you going to get that money from? Our job is to know where you're at and to guide you in the right direction. So for example, like we have the Philly First program right here in Philadelphia where you can get up to $10,000 or 6% of the sales price of the home, whichever is less. So a $200,000 property, for example, 6% of that is $14,000. You're going to get $10,000 because that's the lesser amount. But guess what? That grant can cover your down payment and a little bit of your closing costs, right? Now, if you have the closing costs, right, you can negotiate a little bit more with the seller. But now there's also something called seller's concession where we have to, Ed and I are going to work together to try to give a good offer so you can get the sellers to give you what's called a concession to buy your property. So can you buy a house in today's market with little to no money down? You can. I tell everybody, and I always keep it real, listen, the more money you have available, the more wiggle room you have to negotiate on a house that's very competitive. But, and I know that Ed's going to talk about it being a buyer's market, you do have a little bit of wiggle room. Try to get some concessions and buy a house with little to no money out of pocket. So you have the Philly First program. You have the First Front Door program, which opens up annually each spring, and you can get up to $15,000 there, right? you have to contribute $1,500 of your own funds. So every grant has a specific qualification for it, right? Some grants you need a 620 credit score minimum. Then you have another grant, right, that you need about 660. So for example, the state grant. I just talked about the Philly First, and then you have the First Front Door, right? I think it's based out of Pittsburgh, that program. Then you have the PHFA grant. There's state grants available, and you can stack some of these grants together, but you have to qualify. So for example, this PHFA grant, right? You can get $500, right? In addition to it, it can be stacked with another program. You have to have a minimum credit score of 660. You have the Keystone Advantage, where you can get 4% of the purchase price for a max of $6,000, right? Some of these things can be combined as long as you qualify. So let's say if you want to get a grant and you're not at 620, well, my job is to say, hey, I'm not a credit repair specialist. I understand credit very well. Ed sends me a lot of people so far. He goes, Eric, can you do a soft credit check? Let's see if we can help them. And if they're not at 620, I run a computer algorithm free of charge to help you get to 620. A lot of times it's paying down some of your own debt. Maybe you want to get added as an authorized user to somebody with better credit, or maybe you want to get a secured credit card, right? So if you don't have that score today to qualify for the grant, we put you in position to get there. So the cool thing is that once you get pre-approved, we look to see what grants you qualify, if any, and if not, what do you need to get there, right? They are depending to the region, depending on where you're at. There's also income limits, right? So in over here in the PHFA income limit, for example, in Philadelphia County, for a 1 to 2 person household is up to $113,000. If you make more than that, you can't qualify for that grant, right? So, if you have, like, let's say, if it's a 3 person household, if you have a child, now that can go to $133,000. You see, the thing is that there's a lot of different grants that we have to see where you're at and which one you qualify for, or which one you can work towards, right? So the cool thing is that a lot of people say, "Oh man, I don't have any money." Listen, you're gonna what's that saying? You gotta take a swing, right? You gotta take a swing to hit that ball. You're gonna miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Why not get pre-approved? See if we can qualify you for this grant program and dip your toes into the market to see what's out there, right? And when you work with Ed and the support group that he has, right, they're gonna fight with you for you, and now you'll be able to buy a house with little to no money down, right? So really important. Okay, what types of mortgages are there? You have conventional mortgages. These are mortgages that are not insured by the government, right? You typically need a 620 or credit score higher. You put 3% down on a single family. If it's a multi-family house, which is like a duplex that you can rent out, for example, you got to put 5% down. FHA mortgage is insured, right? 580 credit score, 3.5% down. If you have a rich uncle and they're going to give you 10% as a gift, right? You can actually buy with an FHA loan with below 580 if you put 10% or higher, right? USDA, we talked about that. If it's in a USDA zone, all you got to do is go to USDA.gov, put in the property, right? Over here in urban areas, we don't have those grants. They have to be rural areas, a little further away from the cities, right? And if you don't mind to drive, you might be able to find something in a rural area and actually get a USDA zone as long as you qualify. And the VA mortgage as well, right? Which we talked about earlier, you can buy with 0% down, which is pretty cool. Now, what can you use for down payment or closing costs, right? A lot of people don't know that if you have a 401k, you can use it to buy a house. I bought my first house in 2008 with my 401k. I borrowed against it, and I used that to put as a down payment and closing costs, right? You can get gifts, right? Like I mentioned, if you have a rich uncle, I wish I had one of those, right? Stocks, bonds, if you have investments. What you can do is you can show up to the closing table with a shoebox full of cash, right? No good, right? You can't go into the mattress and just bring the money that's there. You have to source that. You have to know, because of 2000, the 9/11, the anti-money laundering laws are very, very strict. We have to follow the money. Very, very important. Sometimes people call me, and I work with a lot of self-employed people that don't put their money in banks, but they have the cash. So we say, well, listen, there's some ways that we can get around it. Either you have to deposit this money, and you have to give me 2 months of bank statements after that money's deposited, so I don't see it going in. Because if an underwriter sees it, they're gonna question, hey, where did this $5,000 come from, right? We can't see that. Or I say, listen, if you're ready to buy now, you have somebody in your family that has this cash that can gift you the money. This is a trick, right? I'm not gonna record this, but or you can say, hey, can your friend gift you the $5,000? You can give your friend the $5,000 cash, but it's a gift, right? So this things around. And now here's the thing. We also, and I posted a video, and at the end of this, I'm gonna pass around my QR code. You guys can follow me on social media. I'm always posting some information or stuff, and I'll give you my number too, so you can text me. But we looked at bank statements also, not only to verify the funds and where it came from, but we also look at right now, right? There's a lot of people using the app buy now, pay later, the Affirm, the Klarnas, right? That if you go ahead and buy something and you're making a minimum payment, if it's over 10 months, that counts as a liability. It doesn't show up in your credit report, but that's something that I have to look at too, right? So we have to look at bank statements, not only to verify the funds, but to look at the activity. So that's why we want to make sure that we prepare early for these things, right? Cool. All right. And you can't use a credit card. You can't go out and get a credit card advance to put as a down payment. You can use your credit card when you're buying a house on a few closing costs, right? So like the inspection, your appraisal, you want to purchase a home inspection. So if money's tight, you can spend close to $2,000 to $3,000 on a credit card for closing costs only, right? But you can't get a loan to get another loan, okay? Not getting pre-approved could cost you your dream home, right? We look at your credit, your income, your assets, and this is going to help you determine how much house you qualify for. It's going to determine how much bargaining power you have when negotiating with a seller. Are you getting a grant? You need a concession, right? You have a little cash so you can make maybe, or is your income good enough where you can offer a little bit more than what the seller is asking for, so you can ask for a concession and finance that. It's going to estimate your monthly payment and total investment, and this is super important. I may approve you for a $500,000 house, but you may not want to pay $500,000 mortgage, right? We talk about that. What do you want to pay? So you can stay within your budget. Because listen, I've been presidents of real estate councils, and I do podcasts. I was in Spanish, had a television in New York for 2 years in Telemundo every Sunday talking about it. And I believe that homeownership is the right path, but I also don't want you to be house poor. It may not be the right time for you. I want to educate you on when it is, right? Because I want you to make sure that you can afford it. But you guys, if you're paying $1,500 a month in rent, times that by 12, times that by 2 or 3 years, you're just throwing that money away. Well, you can say, hey, can I buy a property, right? And pay that in a mortgage, and now it's mine. I have freedom. And that's the true power. But as long as you're educated on how to do that, that's what our goal is today, right? And you want to identify which loan product, right? Can you do an FHA conventional loan? Sometimes you can only do an FHA loan because you can only do a conventional loan. For example, the Trump administration passed that if you have your work visa before, I can give you an FHA loan. Right now, work visa, I can only do conventional loans. So now that we need a higher credit score, we need to look to see which program you qualify for. Super important, right? Pre-approval is super important. Right? What I don't want you to do is, right, once you get pre-approved and we look at all these things, if there's any changes with income, credit, assets, you got to talk to us. It's okay to change jobs as long as it's going to be an improvement in the quality of your life. But if you had a W-2 job and you want to quit to start doing Uber, right, that can be a problem in how we calculate income, because now Uber, you're 1099 and independent contractor. We need 2 years of work history to average out your net income, right? If you drive Uber, right, for example, you might make $70,000 a year, but then you only report $20,000. We got to go by that $20,000 net income that you report. So these are things that we want to make sure we communicate with, right? So if anything changes, we want to have that conversation so we can update your pre-approval. So that way you don't go around and think that everything's good, and you make an offer in a house, you're spending time, energy, money, just driving around and spending gas on looking for houses. It's costly, right? Then you got to spend money on inspection and appraisal, and in the end, when that comes up, you don't close. We do not want to do that. We want to make sure that we prepare you up front in the right manner, okay? Cool. I'm gonna skip over these here, like your banks, the bank, like if you have a, real quick, if you have a Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whatnot, right? I never want to throw shade on any of these banks. Any bank that helps people, right, purchase a property, I'm all for. But they are a little bit more restrictive, right? The originators that are, the lenders that are there, they work under the umbrella. And, you know, good luck them picking up the call on Saturday and a Sunday when you negotiate and try to get the numbers to get the offer, accepted, right? But again, you want to make sure you have multiple options. All we do is lend money on mortgages, right? This is our bread and butter. We have to be licensed. We have to maintain a certain, number of hours every single year. We know the guidelines, right? So we know if something is an issue, how to fix it, right? Sometimes if you go with some people that aren't as trained, right, it may cost you the deal, okay? I'm not gonna talk about home inspection because we do have, Eric, the inspector, is gonna be talking a little later, but it can cost you thousands of dollars if you skip a home inspection, right? But we'll talk about that a little later, okay? Choosing the wrong team could cost you thousands, okay? The lender and the realtor should have a working relationship, right? We're working on we are working for you. And by the way, you don't pay us directly, right? We'll talk about that too, right? Like our closing cost for the bank is $1,670. That's the cost of processing the loan. That's that closing. If you don't close, you don't pay that. That's part of the closing cost that I mentioned earlier. The sellers, for the most part, are gonna pay, right, the realtor fee. And I'm pretty sure Ed's gonna elaborate on that. But the cool thing is that we're gonna have a working relationship so we can make sure that we're communicating to get you into your home, right? We should be accessible, available. Weekend availability is huge because that's a lot of times when you're looking at homes. So you gotta run the numbers if you're gonna go ahead and make an offer in a house. Super important, right? And we should have a support team. I mean, right now, you just see Ed has his family's support team. He's part of a great brokerage, great team, great support team. I have assistants, right? They speak Spanish. I speak Spanish. So that way, right, if I'm not available, you can reach out to one of my team members to make sure that we're answering your question right then and there. Okay? Cool. So, as I wrap up, and Ed's gonna take over as far as what he does. I hope you guys feel a little less concerned, stressed out, intimidated, anxious, uncertain. It's about just taking that step forward, right? Again, you may not be ready to buy a house today, but the whole point is know who to reach out to whenever you guys are ready. Right, so you guys can take a picture of this. I also have some business cards on here. If you feel free, my cell phone number is 786-444-4160. You guys can text me right now, and after this is over, I'll text you my calendar link. You can schedule a call, and we can just talk about your situation, right? And I can guide you in the right direction. So again, you can just go ahead and take a screenshot, 786-444-4160. We can go ahead and schedule a consultation. Now, when I'm doing a pre-approval, guys, I do a soft credit pull, very important. When you do a hard inquiry, that's gonna impact the credit, right? Soft credit pull is good for me to know. Now, here's the thing, sometimes I tell people, this morning, I did 2 pre-approvals this morning, before I told you. And one of them was below a 580 with a soft credit pull. And my suggestion is, hey, you're below a 580, I suggest to do a hard pull so you can really see where you're at. And I can run a computer algorithm to help you get to a 580, right? So I'll do a soft credit pull first. So if you think, oh, I don't want my credit pulled, if buying a home is something that you guys want to do a soft credit pull first. There's no obligation to get the pre-approved, guys. You don't have to pay me. You don't have to pay Ed. But you now know exactly where you're at and what you need to do. So I tell people, get pre-approved, see where you're at. Sometimes maybe you might need more time in your job. You might need another co-signer to buy a house, right? Know where you're at and having a conversation truly doesn't hurt. Cool. All right. So before Ed comes and talks about what his role is, do you guys have any questions in English, Spanish? I speak a little Japanese. All right. No questions? Concerns?
Yeah.
Did you guys learn a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have questions.
So you say there is like a limit how much money you pay for the first time or work grant or whatever.
Yeah, so what happens is depending on the program and depending on the county, it goes by the average year income. Okay? So if you're above that, sometimes you may not qualify.
Does it go by combined or like?
It goes by household. So if you're using you and your partner, for example, to qualify for a home, and you're above the $113,000 in Philadelphia County, for example, right? Then you may not qualify. But actually, this is a great point. Thank you for this, because I'll get to you right next. This is a great point, because when people don't qualify for the grant program, okay, we have a 100% FHA financing program, okay? So let's say if your income is too high, right, to get a grant, you can finance a down payment. That $7,000 for a $200,000 home, I can take that and I can finance it as a second mortgage. Now, I keep it real with everybody. The rate's gonna be a little higher. Now you have a second mortgage, the rates are a little higher. But as long as you can say, you know what, Eric, I'd rather do that because I'm qualified for the grant. Let me get into my house. When the rates drop, I can refinance, pay off a second mortgage, and then now I'm gonna take a little bit of money. So that's also an option. If the grants do not work for you, there's a 100% financing option. And I want to share a story, because I think stories are powerful. I had a lady that reached out to me, a realtor reached out to me. She was living in a house for 7 years. She was paying $3,000 a month in rent, right? But because she was paying that much in rent, they didn't have any savings. The owner of the house said, listen, I'm selling this house. You want to buy it? So she came to me, and I went ahead and pre-approved that. I go, listen, between you and your husband and your son, you guys can buy this house. This is what your family's gonna be. You know, oh, man, that's too much, that's too high. Like, okay, well then you guys stay in this range, and then their income was too high to qualify for the grant. So we got them the 100% equity financing, and the realtor did an amazing job to get the closing costs. So at closing, we got a check back for $1,500 to cover the appraisal and the inspection of this thing. If you guys follow me on social media, and I'm Eric Estevez, you guys can follow me, Eric Estevez, the lender, Eric the lender. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, right? I posted the story, I posted this testimonial. So I interviewed them and they posted it, right? So I like to post real life stories, so it's still possible, right? The more money you have, right, you have more negotiating power, right? Like if you're out there in a multiple bid situation, but it doesn't hurt to go out there and work with the right team to get you into the hospital. It's still happening today. Cool. One other question? I'll get back to you. You're good?
Yeah.
All right. You have any questions, sir?
Well, in this point where the income limits, these guys be super creative. So say you and your partner are like over, or maybe you don't need your partner for the loan, you get the system. You can still, you can still pay the bill, but the creativity and like looking at your situation, these guys are awesome.
That's a great call now. So if you can afford that house on your own, just leave your partner out of it, right? Your partner, if you guys are legally married, you go on the deed at closing, but that's the way to get around. Great call. Great call. Awesome. Any other questions? Awesome, guys. Thank you very much for your time. Good. Thanks, Jack. You got it.
So real quick, guys, when I introduce myself, also I want to let you know that we're going to be talking about a little bit about the title. My mentor, my team lead is here, Paul Rodriguez. He owns the title company. He's with the TPR group that I work with. We're going to be talking to you guys a little bit later on title process, what they do as well. Home buying. Our mission today, again, I'm Eduardo Morales, Home Smart, works with the CPR group. My mission today is to establish a trusting and lasting relationship with clients we serve by providing the educational resources needed to achieve their real estate goals. All right, so these are the discussion points today. Eric already covered pretty much one, the peer approval process, two, the grants. So now I'm going to start from 3, searching for your home. After searching for homes, we're going to be submitting an offer. After submitting the offer, the lending process, the do's and don'ts, which Eric kind of went over a little bit with you guys as well. Home inspections. I have Eric from the Eagle Inspection. He's going to talk to you guys a little bit about that as well. And again, Paul Rodriguez with the title services. He's going to talk as well about that. And then 807. This is where we're gonna be talking about, you know, keys to your hands, well, by that time, handing over keys to your hands, you have to come up. All right, average buying timeline. If everything goes good, if the ducks are lined up, average buying timeline, 9 weeks. 9 weeks. A lot of people think it takes work, it takes a long time. If everything is good to go, it takes 9 weeks. So week 1 and 2, which Eric already spoke about, we're going to be talking about the pre-approval. Well, he spoke about the pre-approval and the counseling. After that, week 3 and 4, we're going to begin searching for properties. Once you get that pre-approval, that's when I come in. We'll start looking for 2 properties. Anything that's going to fit your budget, depending on your pre-approval, we'll move forward with that. Week 5, we submitted offer, escrow. Everyone know what that is a little bit. Escrow is pretty much a down payment. If you like your house, you love it, here's my down payment, hold this. I'm interested in buying your house. Until the end of the process, that gets credited back. But that's just pretty much just letting the seller know, listen, I want this house, I'm serious, here, hold this money until we finish this. After that, week 6, inspections and disclosures. Week 7, appraisal, and then commitment letter from any of the lenders. Week 8, clear any lender conditions and receive a clear to close. That's our goal, clear to close. And then week 9, we do a final walkthrough and go to that settlement table, sign off, and again, put those keys in your hand. All right, so after you get the pre-approval, we go looking for a home. We go searching for a home. But before you get that pre-approval, I want to sit down with you. Your wife, your husband, we'll sit down and we'll talk a little bit. I want to get in you guys' heads. I want to know, what are we looking for, guys? You want a front yard, you want a backyard, you want a finished basement, you want a swimming pool. What is it that you guys are looking for? Commute. Everybody is important. You know, I don't want to live too far from where I work at. You know, so those are discussions that we'll have. I'll get in your head. We'll a game plan. We'll set up a game plan where we all can get together and we're all on the same page. So how that happens is, I will go in my system, depending on what you got pre-approved for. We'll look for homes and what you guys want in certain areas. Once we find them, I'll send them over to you guys. Now, again, before I can get into that, we work as a team, right? So I have my system. I'll send you homes. You guys want to look at them? I'll schedule the tour. We'll see them. Also, if you guys are driving through neighborhoods, you know, because I can't see everything, so we got to work together. We got to work as a team. You see a house, send it to me. Go, hey, check this house out for me. I got you. Let's look into it. If you like, we'll go set up a tour, right? Now, one big thing, and I stress this, like, seriously. If you get approved for $200,000, do not send me a house that's $250,000. Do not send me a house that's $300,000. You got to be realistic. You know, nobody, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a seller's market, buyer's market, whatever it is. Nobody's going to take $50,000 off the house because you got approved for $200,000. It's not going to happen. I'm here to negotiate. I'm here to try to get you the best that I can get you for this property. But, you know, common sense is not going to happen, right? So after we do that, we find your home, we submit the offer. After we submit the offer, let's get a couple documents they're going to ask for. They're going to ask for your pre-approval. We get with your lender, for Eric, which we already have on file. We'll submit the pre-approval. We'll submit the buyer's financial information. Buyer's financial information is pretty much letting the sellers know what are you working with. What type of money you got in your account. A strong buyer. They want to see how strong of a buyer you are, so they want to know your finance. They want to know what you're working with. Bottom line. After that, we'll lead-based disclosure. So lead-based disclosure is important, especially when you got children. Any house that was built prior to 1978, they use lead-based paint in these houses, right? So lead-based disclosure from the seller, he's telling you, the buyer, if he knows anything that any lead-based paint that's in that house, either he knows or he doesn't know. This is pretty much telling you if he has any information about it, right? This is important. And inspection, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because what it is, lead-based, it causes cancer to anybody. And if there's lead-based paint in your house, it's a concern. So we want to make sure that the buyer, the seller, is letting you know that they have, there's nothing there. But inspections will cover all that. Okay. All right, and then another seller disclosure agreement. Again, Eric's gonna get into that as well, because the seller disclosure agreement is pretty much the card facts for a home. All right, the house can look beautiful from the outside. The seller can tell you, oh, I had no problems with roofs, I had no leaks in my house, the heater is new, there's no mold, nothing like that going on. He can tell you that, but we don't know. I don't know you. You can tell me whatever. I can't trust that. That's why we always stress to our clients, get that home inspection, because everything can look beautiful from the outside, but you don't know what's going on in the inside, right? After we do that agreement of sale, we submit that offer, right? We tell that seller, listen, we want this house, this is what we're offering, this is my down payment, we submit it. Once we submit that offer, Eric will, you'll get with your lender, he'll send you a closing costs. Closing costs is pretty much the numbers that he spoke about. This is what you're gonna need at the table, this is what's gonna come out of pocket. And you got grants, that all's gonna be credited to your closing costs, so, right? After we see that closing costs, write MLS disclosure, that's where I come in. Me personally, my commission is 2.5. This is what I charge. That MLS disclosure is pretty much letting you know that no agent's commission is set in stone. There's no law on that. It's negotiable. We can talk about it if it gets to a point. My thing is this. You're my client. I want to look out for you, right? If my commission is going to affect you and get in this house, we can negotiate that, because at the end of the day, I want you guys to be happy. Yeah, I gotta pay bills. I can't work for free, right? Nobody's gonna work for free, but I can work something out where I can, even if I gotta take down my commission, at the end of the day, it's taking care of you guys, right? You and your family. But that's disclosure, just letting you know that no commission is set in stone. It is negotiable.
Okay, so for the commission, the sellers are still paying most of that commission for the most
Now,
part?
that's a good point. Thank you, Eric. 9 out of 10 times, you don't even have to worry about it, because the seller usually will cover the commission. Now, let's say you find a house, right? You said, what's it? Luke. You find a house, you go, hey, I want this house, whatever. I call the agent, the seller's agent. I'll have a conversation with him. Hey, what's going on with the house? Are you guys taking care of the commission? Boom, boom, boom. I'll come back to you, Luke, the house is good to go. You ain't got to worry about commission, they're going to take care of that for us. They're going to pay me for it. So, and that's a good thing. Again, 9 out of 10 times, that mostly happens. So just to let you know, you don't have to be worried about it. Now, worst case scenario, they don't pay that commission, but you love that house, right? And again, my commission is negotiable. I don't work for free. So you have 2 options. You can pay my commission or negotiate. You can pay my commission or negotiate it, or we can move on to another house where the seller's going to pay the commission. Therefore,
Just to jump on that topic, a lot of times too, when they calls listing agent, even if they're not willing to give, if someone's not willing to give that full 2.5% commission, they can say, hey, we'll give you 2% commission. So then if they get 2 commission, then you as the buyer already, you have to make up that difference of that 0.5. So there's different ways that we can also work around that. So it's not that they're just not going to give the commission. Most of the times they're willing to give, they're just not willing to pay that agent what his set standard is of that 2.5. Or if they're willing to make up most of it, then that's a good thing. We can still move forward. If you guys agree to make up that difference. And that's what they negotiate with us.
then we move forward. So once all that is said and done, they accept our offer, deposit notice. Again, this is what, you go down, let them know that you're serious, you want this house, we'll put a deposit notice that goes into escrow. You can do that as a wire, you can do it as a certified check. All right? Then we move forward. Before we move forward, any questions? Anybody? Talk to me, I'll talk about it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna take a little break, guys. We got some proposals to go over there. We got some comments. Listen, get down with it. That's what we're here for. Let's enjoy it. We conversate a little bit. Take some time out. Enjoy it. And after we come back, Eric, the inspector, is gonna let you know what's going on with the home inspection and the process on that. All right?
Good. That's it. Eric, next thing, same here. How you doing? Presentation now. A lot of good information. A lot of good information. Absolutely.
Come on, guys. Hey, y'all want that hard liquor? Mix that. Something you like. Most of them free. Everything is free. Oh, that's fine.
What's up, Mac?
Next year, this year. Doing this. And I feel like some dudes thinking about jacked up.
In the field, man. It's what they
¡Qué lindo! Mira, cuídala. Ella es una mujer que necesita un hombre. Ella era mujer.